G'day, my name's Glenn. Yesterday I went out and I did a bit of shooting on my FX30 and the Panasonic Lumix S1H. I did this with the new BLAZAR Remus Anamorphic lenses. When I say new, they're probably been under a year old. They haven't been around for too long at this point, but I've absolutely loved the image that I've got out of these lenses. Now I've definitely got some good footage in the past. I was shot with, some old Canon FDs, and I was shot with the classic, what do they have, the classic, autofocus photo lenses. But I haven't ever got that specific look I really want until really now. You see a lot of anamorphics in old films, the kind of 80s films I used to watch, they use plenty of anamorphics, and I'm really now getting that look that I'm after. I just wanted to really narrow it down further and decide which camera brand do I go for. Recently, during the Black Friday sales, I jumped onto the Sony bandwagon, I guess you could say, and I just went nuts. I bought like a number of G Master lenses. When I say a number, I bought two, but they were pretty expensive for me and the amount that I actually shoot. And I decided to use those on a wedding recently. The couple I shoot for their business, they use Sony cameras, so I thought, hey, it'd be good for them in color grading. But when I got the footage back home and I looked at it, I thought, I don't know if this suits me. I've always struggled with Sony colors. For me, it's mostly the greens in the foliage can look kind of plasticky. The magenta and the skin tones can just look a bit off, like it's too saturated. And then when they have the noise reduction in the camera, I find it just gives this kind of muddied look, like it looks bad when you really zoom into the footage. And yes, you can output RAW. However, I use DaVinci Resolve. Right now, Blackmagic RAW isn't available on the FX30. It's coming soon to the FX6 and the FX9 from what I hear. That's through the video assist recorders, by the way, not into the camera. But yeah, right now it's only ProRes RAW that's available on the FX30 and the FX3. Even when it is available, however, on the FX30, this comes with a crop when it shoots in RAW. I believe it offers slightly higher than 4K, but yeah, the only issue for me is I don't want to crop on already crop sensor. 1.5 times crop down from a 35mm full frame is kind of as low as I want to go. I used to shoot a lot on micro four thirds, and I have kind of wanted to leave those days behind. It was lack of dynamic range, and I don't know, there was just this look to the image on micro four thirds I personally didn't like. I just wanted that little bit more bokeh, and I wanted to really emulate those old 80s films that I saw. So on that note, I don't know if this camera is right for me in that regard either. Why did I go for Sony then? You're thinking, why on earth have you gone all that route and spent all this money? For me, it's just shooting weddings and events. The autofocus is so good in Sony's. In saying this, yes, it has gone out. Even in this video I was recording earlier, it actually dropped out. It had to re-record this. But it has been the best I've found in the business personally. I know the S52X in the Lumix line, they've started doing some really good things. I think some of their micro four thirds cameras as well have now got phase detection autofocus, and it's good. However, when there's about 4 or 5 people in the frame, when I've been shooting a wedding, the autofocus is not known what to do. It's freaked out and bounced all over the place. So that's what actually got me to switch to Sony. Now that I'm there, I'm looking at those colors again that I remember from a few years back, and I'm going, I don't think I can do it. This isn't the look I want for narratives. Narrative work is my passion, and music videos, that's really what I want to shoot, primarily for my business on the side. And yeah, it's really been a tough decision. Now this footage, I found it very fascinating. After I'd graded it, I couldn't see a massive difference. I saw differences that matter to me. I'm not going to say exactly what they are because I want to more leave this up to you guys to make your own decision on the footage. But in the footage you're about to see, I was shown my graded version first, and then I was shown the non-graded version after. When I say non-graded, I have color space transformed it to a Rec 709, but you'll basically be seeing the colors out of the camera. I shot in log on both cameras, S-Log3 on the Sony, that's Cine Gamma 3, and on the Panasonic I shot in V-Log. Both of their native ISOs, that would be 800 for the base on the Sony, and it's actually 640 in V-Log on the Panasonic. That's a good note for anyone who might be shooting Panasonic. The camera will naturally take you to 800 thinking you're shooting in like a Rec 709, but Panasonic have said themselves, if you want to shoot in Vlog, 640 is the base you want to go for in that. Now, a bit more about these lenses that I've really come to enjoy. I think it's great they come in both PL and EF mount. I've been longing for an anamorphic company to do that for a long time, because that way I can take it to any camera brand I want. Whereas if I bought in like L mount or Sony, I might maybe having to make a decision based on my lenses, what I stick with versus what camera I'm using. And sometimes that's not such a bad thing, but when you see files from certain cameras, you'll understand where I'm going or where I'm coming from. I think it's good just to be able to take lenses to any system with you. That way you can choose the best specs for your specific look. So yeah, I've had both of these on EF mount. I've switched them over to the EF myself when they arrived, because I have a lot of EF to E mount or EF to L mount adapters. On the note of adapters, this is something I thought was really important to share. I'll bring this 33mm over a little bit closer. So here's a 33mm, let's focus up there. With the 65, this isn't an issue, but with this one, you'll probably notice this cap looks rather big. Now, the reason being is this protruding element at the back. The camera sits on here when you lock it in place, and you have this protruding part on the back. Now, this isn't just something that, Remus have done. Anamorphics have protruding elements quite a lot. What they've actually done is quite great to fit a lot of their anamorphics onto regular cameras, but it's just this 33mm protrudes a bit far, and here's the issues it has run me into. Just going to focus back to myself there we go. So with the adapters I have, I can give you guys a bit of a rundown on what you'd probably want to use if you do get these, or this particular lens. The 65, no issues. Again, it's just this 33mm. Apologies if I said 35 earlier. 33mm does protrude a bit at the back. Now, a lot of people that shoot with Lumix or E mount from the Sony, you'll probably know what these are. This is a MC21 adapter for basically adapting from the L mount camera to an EF lens. As you can see though, it kind of has this square little element inside here. Now, that protruding element on the 33mm anamorphic will actually hit this, and you can't actually use the adapter because it won't let the lens go all the way in. Another thing you actually want to look at is, or keep in mind, is if you use built-in NDs in your adapter, that is also going to be a problem. So as you can see, this is a variable ND inside this filter. Really cool trick. It's kind of like having built-in NDs to your camera if you don't want to keep putting lenses on the front. But again, that particular anamorphic lens, the 33mm, it'll actually hit this glass if you're trying to put the lens in. So what you want to use is either locking adapters or just dummy adapters. I haven't got any locking adapters myself, but the dummy adapters have just worked fine for me because I'm often just focusing by hand. The only reason you want to go for a locking adapter is if you're using like a follow focus system, like the DJI LiDAR. I think they have like a follow focus system. Really cool rig, but you may have a bit of play in the lens that might kind of pop back and forward when it's focusing with that system. But yeah, over here I have just some dummy adapters. So this one is just from a company called K&F Concept. I believe they're an Australian brand. I could be wrong. I believe the parts are made overseas. But yeah, this has been a really good brand, even for filters. And then I just have this brand over here, which is called Earth, just URTH. I use this one to adapt to the Sony, and I use the K&F Concept to adapt to the Lumix. Now, when I shot on these cameras, I shot both in Super 35. That just comes natural with the Sony FX30. It's a 1.5 times crop, again from a 35mm full frame, some people call it. And on this one, I actually cropped internally. So you can shoot on the full frame, this is the 35mm, or the Super 35mm and crop down, which is what I did when I did these tests. As you go through the footage, you'll also see that I have labeled which lens is which. There's only a few shots I wasn't 100% sure because I was doing quick switches on the beach with the wind blowing and sand everywhere, so I wanted to be quick. So I put a little asterisk at the bottom, just so you know I'm not 100% sure on those ones. I will reveal at the end which footage is which, but I thought it's quite fun for you guys to figure out by yourselves as you look through that footage. Trying to figure it out might help you make a decision in the camera you want to go for. Fascinatingly for me, I didn't see a huge difference. I did see differences that matter to me. I'm not going to say what those are because I want, if you're trying to judge what camera you want to go for, I'm going to leave it up to you to see what footage you like best. For me, I did see things that I didn't like. So there was a bit of aliasing on one of these cameras. I'll give it away. The aliasing I saw was, the moire on this one. It's because it doesn't have an optical low pass filter. This one does, so it kind of cuts out that kind of flickeriness you see on like t-shirts with lines, or when you have a lot of small detail in an image, it can kind of flicker a little bit, like it can't figure out, you know, what it wants to do. I saw it pretty badly when I put these two shots side by side, or one on top of the other, in the editing software. However, when I went onto my big television, my 4K TV, I couldn't see it. And when I exported the footage, I couldn't see it in the file either. I still saw a little bit of kind of muddiness due to certain sharpening effects or to certain kind of noise reduction in one of the cameras. I'm not going to say which is which, up to you guys to decide. And I definitely saw a color difference, but as you can see in my graded footage I'm about to pop up, there wasn't that big of a difference. So it's in a way made my decision a little harder on what I choose to go for moving forward. I already have kind of made a decision for myself and where I want to go, but yeah, I'm going to leave it there and shoot over to the footage now. Any questions, let me know. I believe I have covered everything there, but yeah, definitely have a look at these Remus anamorphic lenses if you're looking for a bit of that filmic look, that kind of classic 80s anamorphic style. These have been awesome lenses and I look forward to sharing some more footage on these in future. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Sorry for talking your ear off, and hope I provided you with some good information there. Cheers, enjoy. Hey, Editor Glenn here. Thought I'd talk through the footage a bit as it plays. So again, pay attention to the greens. On the Sony, I did notice kind of a plasticky greenness. I always have seen that in their footage. Again though, I've seemed to have graded it out, I believe. Another thing to pay attention to is the purple and magenta shifts in the highlights and some of the shadows as well that I found interesting. Paying attention to my daughter's pink t-shirt here actually. In the footage later that's ungraded, I think one of them looks very saturated. But here I seem to have graded it out fairly well. Apologies for the extra people on the beach there. They were there for about 10 minutes. I was waiting for them to leave to match the shot, but yeah, they didn't leave. This one's a little out of focus on the bottom. It was just a bit hard to see, so apologies on that, but I'll go to the 33 in the next shot. So it's a bit wider, same kind of image to see the tones in the sky and the waves there. As the footage continues to go through, I will talk about why I like the 1.5 times squeeze in particular on the BLAZAR Remus lenses. If you shoot on a 16:9 aspect ratio, or with a 16:9 aspect ratio, you actually get perfect cinemascope. The measurement is exact. And if you shoot with 16:9, it actually takes out a bit of a, I won't say a flaw, it's a quirk or a character of these lenses. On the sides, if you have someone to the very side of the lens, it actually kind of distorts them, like it makes them look very thin if you get towards the edge of the frame. So what I've done is I've always shot in 16:9 and I've eliminated where it gets really heavy, that squeeze. Also, if you're shooting in Super 35, that does eliminate quite a bit of that. It's a reason, yeah, I don't shoot open gate because you get way too much of that squeeze on the edges. We're into those ungraded shots now. You might be able to tell straight away when we flicked across to it, which was which. This was the t-shirt that I saw a lot of flickering on my son's back there, but again, out of the editing software, I didn't see it, fascinatingly. But yeah, I've had a great time with these lenses, and that squeeze factor is just right for me. I think 2 times squeeze is too much. I feel you lose too much on the edges of the frame, and 1.33 times squeeze I think is not enough. But interestingly, if you are interested in anamorphic but you still want autofocus, BLAZAR have just released some lenses called the Apex line. Just the 50mm come out at the moment, with I believe a 35 coming in future. Yeah, they've actually achieved anamorphic autofocus, and with their 1.33 times squeeze, they try to mimic a 1.5 look, which really fascinated me. I did actually order one of these lenses, but I decided to cancel it because I still wasn't sure on which camera brand I'm going to move forward with. But I really hope they release these lenses for different mounts moving forward. I'm very excited to see, you know, more anamorphic autofocus lenses in future, especially as a kind of solo creator. A lot of the time, without someone to pull focus for me, makes things a lot easier on different shoots that I do. But yeah, guys, here comes the results. So yes, the top was the Sony FX30 and the bottom was the Panasonic Lumix S1H. If you guys have any questions, feel free to let me know in the comments, and I'm happy to share some knowledge and help give you pointers, anything like that. I think it's a good place to build a community and help one another out. But thanks again for tuning in.